What's up, little homies? This is Bad Horse, and welcome to Follow Up KTS, where I'll be taking some time each week to answer some of the comments from each episode of Halo KTS. So the first thing I'd like to say is thank you to everyone who continues to support the channel, especially the subscribers that stuck around during the long hiatus. I'd also like to say welcome to the new subscribers. I'm grateful to have you all with us. So on to the follow-up. So during the production of the last video, I was actually able to contact Chris Ray to ask some questions about the video of his that I quoted in the previous episode titled Positive and Negative Feedback. So here's how our brief interview went. First, I asked him, in your recent video on the Halo 5 news, you stated that the removal of split screen was not a big deal to you. You went on to say that you actually got together with your friends and utilized the LAN to play locally. How has the news that Halo 5 will not support LAN changed your opinion of the game? Chris responded, the news that Halo 5 won't support LAN is certainly unfortunate. However, the way my friends and I have done LAN is through Wi-Fi, through Xbox Live, meaning we never use a direct system link, so their lack of LAN support won't really affect me so far as I know. It'll be disappointing if this ends up being the case, but I spent the vast majority of my time playing Halo by myself with friends on Xbox Live anyway, so as long as the game is good enough to justify the sacrifice, it shouldn't be too big a deal. Next, I went on to ask him, in your Halo videos you tend to play the middle of the road. You don't really go negative, but you shy away from blind optimism as well. What do you feel are the advantages of this versus staying positive or going negative? Chris responded, it's easy to get swept up in the hype, and it's just as easy to get swept up in outrage. I find the middle of the road is often the most reasonable and most accurate path. It's never good to lean too far in any given direction. It's kind of like politics. You don't want to be too far left or go too far right because you risk being extreme and unable to come to any meaningful conclusions. Ultimately, it's pragmatism. Also, it helps to understand what things are like from a developer perspective rather than just exclusively the consumer view. I went on to ask him, in your opinion, if fans want to get something changed in a Halo game, where's the best place to voice their constructive criticism? He wrote back, just opinion, but the r Halo subreddit I feel is easier to read than the forums, though the forums in general tend to become hive minds, so I'm not sure. I'd say Reddit, but the forums are just as likely to be read by the people at 343. Lastly, I asked him, I see that the idea of not pre-ordering Halo 5 is spreading like wildfire across YouTube. You mentioned it in your video that came out after the Halo 5 beta. Did you get the idea from somewhere else, or is this just an inevitable conclusion for fans who are still sore after the MCC? Do you still endorse a pre-order boycott for Halo 5? Chris wrote back, my opinion on that has changed actually. As I've learned more about pre-orders and the behind-the-scenes nature of how those work and what purpose they serve, I've not been quite as adamant about the pre-order boycott mentality. While I think voting with your wallet is a valuable practice, ultimately I'm going to buy it anyway. That money is going to 343 regardless because I enjoyed the beta experience. The notion of withholding guaranteed money on an arbitrary delay is a bit pointless in retrospect. Ultimately, I just want a fun game, and Halo 5 has already proven itself to be that. There's a chance it won't work on release, sure, but that chance exists all the time. It always existed. Short answer, no, I don't still support a pre-order boycott, but simultaneously, I wouldn't go out of my way to convince people who have decided to boycott to do otherwise. The most I can say is that I enjoyed what I played of it, and telling other people how to spend their money isn't my business. We're all adults, and we can make those decisions ourselves. So that's where we ended our interview. And I just want to thank Chris Ray for, engaging with me on this and actually helping to shape my opinion on it. Let me know, what do you guys think? Is a pre-order boycott something that you guys would want to take part in, or maybe you guys feel it's not relevant to the debate? Alright, on to some comment follow-up. This week, Drop Bear writes, I don't totally agree. I'm leaning towards a similar view to Dobbins. From the time I've played Master Chief Collection, I've not seen 343 do anything substantial to compensate, let alone fix the game quick enough. He then goes on to list some things that he doesn't like about the way that 343 has handled things, but then he finishes with, they aren't making any compromises for the fans. If you guys want to read the full thing, it's on the last video, so you can look at it in the comments. But I digress. I agree with you that 343 has lost its trustworthiness. I personally will not be pre-ordering Halo 5, but I'm also not going to advocate for it as a movement either. What I was trying to get at with the video is that we need to change the way that we're talking to and about 343. We need to stop the negative feedback and start giving constructive advice. Instead of bashing 343's character and saying they're uncreative because all they do is rip off Call of Duty, say, I like traditional Halo better, and I'd like it if 343 stayed true to Halo being an arena shooter. While both of these are essentially saying the same thing, a Bungie employee reading through a forum thread is more likely to gloss over the negative one and embrace the positive. Like I said, I completely agree with you that 343 has not done a good job up to this point. They also haven't convinced me that they've learned their lesson, so for me, and apparently you, pre-ordering seems like a bad idea. However, if someone out there really liked the beta, I'm not going to tell them they're wrong. I'll be buying the game, probably the day it comes out, unless I hear it isn't working. Dobbins is right about the fact that there isn't much that can be done at this point in terms of design. The basic parts of the game are finished, and there isn't much that will happen at 343 between now and launch day regarding the fine details. This game is at a point where the developers are now focused on writing the launch day patches, which will address any last-minute bugs they've discovered. That is why, at this point, I feel it's most important to set people up with the tools that they will need to engage with 343 in a meaningful way, starting October 27th. Where I diverge from Dobbins' thinking is when he insists that 343 is guilty of what he calls short-term profit-driven thinking. While I would agree that 343 has made mistakes in the production of both Halo 4 and the MCC, assuming that they're all out to ruin the franchise presumes that they're also idiots. Yes, it's true that they do need to make money in the short term. However, they know that maintaining the brand image and perception of quality is key to creating much larger profits in the long term. They may have failed on both counts recently, but asserting that it was intentional is just nonsense. 343 is like any other company in that they're looking to expand and reach larger and larger audiences. Yeah, pre-orders did make the MCC profitable, but that misses the point. The Master Chief Collection could have easily sold 2 to 3 times as many copies during its lifespan if it had worked from day one. When you look at the numbers of people who never bought the game and the huge amount of people that bought used copies, it is undeniable that it was in the best interest of 343 to keep players playing. These are intelligent business people who understand that if replayability falls off, the number of used copies on the market will soar, creating a situation where new copies cease to be sold. 343 may be many things, but they're not stupid. They realize the key to selling the greatest number of copies of Halo 5 is going to be getting customers to hold on to their copy of the game. This not only keeps used games off the shelf, but maintains a large and loyal following, creating a magnet by which other players are drawn into the game. If anything, rather than encouraging a pre-order boycott, I would encourage players to buy physical copies of Halo 5. This would allow you the recourse of reselling your game if you were disappointed. Let me know what you plan to do in the comments. That'll about cover it for this episode of Follow Up. If you're new to this series, here are some links to get you started. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future updates. And as always, thanks for watching. This is Bad Horse signing off. Peace out, little homies.